Hi guys! Welcome to SJ Masterclass, a podcast where two friends and avid readers are working to build an encyclopedia of the universe written by Sarah J. Maas, one series at a time, cross-referencing as we go through the texts. We will discuss themes, characters, plot points throughout the Maasverse, and wherever our conversation takes us. Rev, we made it! We're at the end of the first book of A Court of Thorns and Roses, doing chapters 41 through 36. I'm Cat, one of your hosts. I'm an ER nurse by day, a cat mom, reader, and knitter the rest of the time.
Hi everyone, I'm Rev. I'm an ER nurse by night, a knitter, lifelong reader, and a dog mom. Each episode, we're going to start with a brief review of the chapters that we're focusing on, and then we're going to get into all the details. This podcast will be extremely spoiler heavy for both ACOTAR and SJM's other work, so listen at your own risk. We're excited to be in the world's best book club and hope you guys want to join along. Kat, do you want to get us started with a chapter review? Catch us up where Feyre is and where all of our besties are and what everybody's doing?
Absolutely. So Feyre has passed the first two trials and we are all anxiously waiting for the third trial. She's kind of going deeper into a state of depression, wondering what the point of everything is. The Shadow Twins take her to see Rhys, we assume, and they pull her into the shadows, and the three of them hear the Ator talking to another creature about Amarantha and Hybern. And Feyre reaches her breaking point and hears beautiful music, which is so different than everything else she's been hearing. The night before the final trial, Feyre goes to a party where she and Tamlin end up in a closet and end up maybe having a smooch or two. Rhys is the one who finds them and tells Tamlin he has to leave. Then Amarantha comes in and Rhys kisses her. This girl is getting a lot of kisses. He sends her to her cell and goes to visit her and shows a little bit more of a vulnerable side. We learn more about his motivations and why he's doing what he's doing and why he is the way he is. The third trial, she has to kill 3 fairies, a male, a female, and dun dun dun, Tamlin. She stabs him, but remembers the number of times she has heard that he has a heart of stone. He does not die, but he is slow to healing, and Amarantha finds a loophole in the deal she made with Feyre and does not free Tamlin or his court. She attacks Feyre, Rhys tries to help her, and Feyre figures out the answer to the riddle. It all comes down to love. She says it, Amarantha kills her, and then Tamlin rises like a beast and kills Amarantha. We see him turn to Feyre, cry over her. The other High Lords all give a kernel of their power. Feyre is turned into a High Fae. Everybody is free. More sexy times happen with Tamlin. She has an interesting conversation with Rhys. And Tamlin and Feyre ride into the sunset, back to home, back to the Spring Court. Anything I missed?
No. You. Pristine coverage right there. You should be a journalist. I would love to get into some of the details now. Slinky dress. I don't know if that's the right word for it. I love that Rhys has Nuala and Caradwyn escorting Feyre. I'm not exactly 100% sure that they're the people that are painting her body and helping her get dressed. But like at one point in this chapter chunk, they have to duck into an alcove, make a pretend like covering
Tapestry.
for the alcove they get into. Tapestry. That's what they're called. One of them has to put their hands over her mouth so she doesn't scream or make noise. But they literally have to be like in her bubble, hands on her. And I love that Rhys has these two performing this task than him. I don't know that Feyre would respond as well if there was him doing it, especially where we are at in the book with the plot and everyone's relationships. But I'm kind of curious, do you think this is accidental on SJM, or do you think it was purposeful that Rhys is still respecting her body and her consent and her bubble?
I think it has to be the two of them, because I think Feyre responds to Rhys. whether you think it is because that mating bond is between them, or if you think it's just she can't seem to help herself but talk back. And both he and Tamlin and Lucien, like all of these high fae with personality, have a tendency to interact with her. It's kind of like the chemistry between them all. I think if Rhys had been walking her down there, he would have been trying to engage her, trying to kind of pick at her just to make sure she was okay. Caradwyn and Nuala are just there to escort her back and forth. They're not there to make friends, which is why I think it's so interesting later on when they do in fact become friends with Elaine. Like there is a distinct decision in that. And so I don't think it is happenstance. I think SJM knew exactly what she was doing.
They have to get, unfortunately, like hands-on with her. And I think it's much more well received by Feyre at this point than it would have been with anyone else. I mean, I'm talking Mor. Well, she's never even met Mor yet. We know Mor. And I'd be like, Mor, it's fine. You can put your hand over my mouth. But like, she doesn't know Mor yet. Lucien, no. Tamlin, couldn't happen. Rhys probably would have led to some bad things. So I appreciate that we've given these two people who, when SJM writes them, they are very innocent, they're very bystanders, and the way that she presents them is very like protective yet innocent. And I do think it's purposeful. That I don't think it was just chance that it accidentally got written this way.
So there's two things that I'm thinking here. The first one is I almost want to say Rhysand could not do it. It goes back to chapter, I think it's 42, where he comes and sees her down in the cell after everything has happened. And he's like, why do you think I'm doing this? Why do you think I never touch you anywhere but your hands in your waist or your shoulders in your waist? Why do you think I make a point of not touching you anywhere else? It's so that Tamlin knows he can't fight me. I think if he were the one painting her, then that is crossing a line. So I think on the one hand, that is happening. But I think also, as what we're seeing in a lot of these side characters that later get named, Eris, Tarquin, Baron, later on in this chapter chunk, Caradwyn and Nuala are very two-dimensional. They are not characters that we need to even acknowledge later on, until later on.
Literally and figuratively, they're two-dimensional. They're just shadows, but also like spies. They realize like, oh, we got to be quiet. We not only have to hide you, but we are hearing something that we shouldn't be hearing.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about with the Shadow Twins is I'm really interested in the fact that they create the tapestry to hide behind. What is their power that they're able to manifest this thing, like this piece of art? It's not like they're pulling her into the shadows. They have created a tapestry that they hide behind. I want to know more about their powers.
They do also create shadows.
They do.
This whole little bit.
Sure. And they like let the, and Feyre even thinks at one point, she's like, if anyone were to see us, all they would see is shadow. But SGM makes the point to note that they created a tapestry that was not there before. And then like the tapestry goes away. 371 is when they create the tapestry that's hanging on the wall, but also their magic smells like jasmine, which we've seen one other time in this book on page 210 when Feyre and Tamlin are on the green grass and she thinks there's no tangy metallic stench. No, the smell of magic had become like jasmine, like lilac, like roses.
I wonder if that has to do with the intention of magic. Like,
or maybe her acceptance
I don't know.
of it.
It's never discussed.
No. It's interesting, and it's interesting that their magic smells like something she smelled in the Spring Court, which is where the pond of moonlight is, but also distinctive from the Lady of the Autumn Court. I think one of the themes that this book looks at least in the second half, is your senses and what you can trust with them. And she's using scent here.
My impression is like an artsy person that the Shadow Twins created this tapestry, just because, first of all, it's appropriate. That's what would blend in. But on the double entendre, it's something that Feyre can connect with. They're artsy.
Sure.
They're artistic. And so, like, that is something I think that would make Feyre feel a little bit more at ease, knowing that, like, I don't know how to explain it other than just saying it that.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
What do you want to talk about next?
I want to talk about something that happens on page 370. So it's the first chapter of 41.
Yeah, I have some quotes on that page, so let's do it.
I wonder if it's the same quotes. I've got two that I wanted to talk about. The first one is literally the first sentence. What followed the second trials was a series of days that I don't care to recall. She has recalled so much. What happens in those days that she doesn't want to think about? We'll never find out. We never do. But later on that page, Feyre is thinking about Amarantha and what Jurian had done to her sister Clythia, and she thinks, I couldn't entirely blame her. I doubted I would ever forget or forgive something like that being done to Nesta or Elaine, no matter how many centuries had passed. It does happen to Elaine and Nesta. Just the opposite. They don't die. They get forcefully changed by Tamlin.
So I have all of those same things highlighted, but my thoughts are going more to the future. We've had Nesta's book. We realize what happens. Is this some kind of foreshadowing that something might happen to Elaine and she's never going to be able to forgive? I mean, maybe. That is what I have highlighted. Like, we need to pay attention. Is this some future foreshadowing, or does it only have to do with the cauldron? Or is there something bigger that happens in Elaine's book where Amarantha is associated with Hybern? We know we're facing Hybern, and then in future books, but then after that, Koshi. Is there something that's going to happen with Elaine that Feyre's never going to be able to forgive? And is this maybe why we can't figure out who Elaine's mate is?
Maybe. I think, well, because Elaine will later say how easy it is for Cassian to die. So we know that that is out there in the universe. I don't think we will see Cassian die because that is not how a romance works. But could Elaine die? Maybe.
We have talked about Game of Thrones style.
Well, but also we have talked about SJM will kill people. Look at Crescent City.
Yeah.
The first 5 chapters, we're all in it for Danica.
Danica.
Yeah. Lahaba. The 13.
I can't with Lahaba. I can't. We're not going into that now. I don't even want to know the tears that are going to happen when we finally get to those books on this podcast. My God. It's going to be embarrassing. The amount of waterproof makeup I'm going to need when we get there.
But
these characters, I have that highlighted too.
Yeah. But these characters are characters that make it books. Like the 13 make it 8 books and they die. Astrid dies. Lahaba. Right? Like all of these characters.
Astrid maybe doesn't die. Maybe they don't die. Maybe they go to somewhere else, right? Because we have, what's her name? Bree or Bryn or whatever her name is.
We'll find out.
She like makes an appearance in a different series. So
this one, spoiler.
But I definitely think that, like, we've always said SJM doesn't put colonels in for no reason, but we've also said Vaughn.
Right. But also red herrings.
The writing of the first book and you don't know where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things also on this page is, but I still wasn't going to leave here alive. And then the next page, I wasn't going to leave this mountain alive. Is this foreshadowing or is this self-fulfilling prophecy? Because she doesn't leave here alive as a human. She is killed and then is brought back to life. So, like,
I think Feyre's just not stupid. She's like, I know where this powerful woman, this powerful being is taking this, and she has no intention, whether I solve this riddle, whether I beat the trials or not, she has no intention. She's already crossed Hybern, which maybe Feyre doesn't know, but we know from reading the text. She's already crossed Hybern once. This had something to do with the previous war. And so I think she just is not dumb. She's like, I can see the writing on the wall.
She's not dumb, but I will say she does get real annoying at times.
Not as annoying as Aelin gets when she keeps sticking out her tongue at Rowan. That's childish. That's annoying.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next?
I want to talk about page 372, 379, and 400.
Okay.
The mention of pigs.
Yeah.
We have never talked about pigs in this entire book, nor do we talk about it again in the rest of any of the SJM's books that I have read so far. But there's 3 different mentions of pigs. And like, I just don't understand. If you mention it 3 times, I feel like that's meaningful, and I get SJM writing it to make a point. I didn't, first of all, understand what the point is. Second of all, I feel like if it was that important of a point, you and I have read all of these series of all of her universe so many times, we maybe would have made the connection. Maybe we just haven't yet, but I had to point it out.
Yeah, I noticed it a lot on this read as well. Especially because we never actually see the creature that's on 372. We just hear the creature. And because this is when they're behind the tapestry.
Yeah, it's making a pig-like sound. The other creature snorted that pig noise.
Yeah. It's weird. It does make me want to pay attention to the other fairies that we will meet throughout this series, because I don't know what they all look at. What?
I just keep thinking, are we going to be paying attention to who's snorting and making pig-like sounds from now on for the rest of these books?
Absolutely we will. If there's another pig in Throne of Glass, I will find it.
I'm sure you will. Can we make another connection?
Mm-hmm.
Same page, 372, just above that, the line just above it. Amarantha has, I don't know what you say, is it pincers or
That's how I pronounce it. Pincers.
That sounds like, to me, something that like insects have, where they like
or like a scorpion,
or like a Stygian spider.
Oh, do spiders have pincers? Maybe.
I mean, that's how they get you, right? They don't sting you like a bee. They like bite you. So that's what spiders do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying yeah.
I'm not a bugologist.
I phrase it as a question. I'm making a statement now. Let's ask Grissom, the entomologist. Grissom, do spiders have pincers?
Retired.
And is that a biting thing or is it not? Just saying.
We are getting...
She sounds like a spider. And I've already made that connection. The Val, the spiders, Maeve, Amarantha.
Mm-hmm. So 373 through 375 is one of my favorite parts of the book. And I am sure other fans as well. It's also my favorite piece of foreshadowing, I think, of the book so far. This is when Rhys sends down the music, and we don't find out how symbolic it is until the next book. But this is, I've never picked up on it because I've never been reading it through the lens of the podcast and looking through the lens of looking for foreshadowing. She dreams of the Moonlight Palace.
Dude, it literally says, up and up, a building to a palace in the sky. She talks about alabaster. She talks about moonstone. It says the Wind Castle. That's not what it's called.
But it's called
something else.
It's called the Moonstone Palace is what it is called. And everything I wanted was there. The one I loved was there.
Who might that be? Is it Moore? I don't think it's Moore. Is it Cassian? I don't think it's Cassian.
It is Rhys.
I think it's Rhys.
It is that is his palace. And I love immediately after. I think this is such a great author tool / technique to be talking about this. She has put this right here. And then immediately talking about the one she loved in Tamlin. So you scoot over this so easily. But that I couldn't. I just really happy. And then also she's looking up at the ceiling into the vast expanse of the starry night sky. So she is back to, that's kind of referencing back to the dresser. It is referencing the night court. It's not a starry night on a spring night. You know, it's the night sky.
A couple comments. I'm just going to read the big chunk of stuff that I wrote about it, and we can just address it like one by one. She's dreaming about the House of Wind Castle and Night Court. If she and Rhys are not mates yet, and he doesn't do the stumble until after she's Fae, why is she dreaming of this as a human, is my first point. Also, his wings come out, and when he says on page 380, he's like, why do I care? Why do I care? But his wings come out, and he obviously cares. Is he angry at her that she doesn't realize the bond yet? Which, if we're waiting for her to become Fae, and he doesn't realize the bond until after she's Fae and after he stumbles, maybe that's inappropriate. But like, are all these things just leading us to think that it's things that we are seeing that no one else is seeing, and we're going to predict the bond on our second read? Or are we supposed to think that he's already knowing about it now? Also, page 401 and 405, she refers to the bond of them and her point of view changing to his. I believe this is after she dies and she starts looking at herself through his eyes. Mm-hmm. Clearly, there's already a connection between them. And then on page 406, she talks about Rhys stepping forward and bringing my shred of my soul with him. And then lastly, on page 412, I was pulled from sleep by something tugging at my middle. Cat. How much does that sound like the drums tugging at her in Calamai?
Okay, you've just talked about so much. I tried to write down things. Okay. I think one of the things I was thinking, because like I do think that he does not know, or maybe he suspects but doesn't know, is he is sending her this music, we know. And maybe part of the magic of this is he doesn't realize that he's also sending his memories. What is to stop it from being more than just magic melody, but it's also just a part of him that is going with it? And also, if they can feel through the bond of the hand, maybe she's picking up on memories of him that he doesn't realize he's transferring to her. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they have such a strong mental connection already that it would not surprise me if we never find out, but we get to assume that he is sending things down the bond, and that includes his memories. And that's why she has these thoughts of the wind court or wind castle, because like he's already distressed and wants to get back to his people, wants to get back to night court. Maybe these are thoughts that he's thinking to himself, that he's like meditating, and these are calming. And somehow, in addition to the music that he's sending to her on purpose, these thoughts are also being conveyed to her through the mental bond, that if they don't know yet, they don't know, but he's sending them to her, and it's also creating solace for her as well.
But now the flip side of that is maybe they are mate bonded, but he doesn't know and she doesn't know. But then that is the question, can a human be mated to a fae? Does that maybe lend credence to Feyre and the Archeron sisters being descended from Fae or something like that? As in, like, there's like a drop of Fae blood in them, and that is why she could be mated to a Fae.
I don't know. I think they have more of a drop of witch blood than they have a drop of Fae blood. But either way, like, supernatural, I guess, is supernatural. But I mean, if it could cross boundaries of supernatural, we're going to say if it could cross races, why couldn't it cross over to humans as well?
Sure. But also, I believe I remember when they're walking through Valeris in book 2, and that's when Feyre makes the connection. And she's like, I know this place. I've been here before. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you sent me that music. You sent me these as well. And he says, no, I only sent you the music because you were breaking. So that is it's a big question. But also, why would he send her images of the Moon Palace, the Moonstone Palace? And why would she think everything I love is there? Is this possibly like seer Feyre? We've already talked about that throughout the book, that she has a little bit of premonition when she has the dream of Amarantha and all these other things. Maybe this is just a little droplet of being a seer.
On page 406, Rhys stepped forward, bringing my shred of soul with him. She is not Fae yet, but her soul is still already connected to him. So I think that that shows that he could be bonded to a human. And I don't think that their species matters that much. Honestly, I think she's the reincarnation of Aelin and he's the reincarnation of Rowan. And then we get to Bryson Hunt. I think they're bonded before that both of them were even born.
Okay. Sure.
But then that he's using this as his place of peace and thinking about that. And he's trying to also give some peace to Feyre. So a little bit of that crosses over in what he's giving to Feyre and what he has for himself is also crossing over. I think it just seems to fit. That's like it was meant to be from the beginning. Like there's a reason that gives her peace because that's what he is thinking of to give himself peace. And if they're mates, if he's at peace, that's going to come down the bond and make her at peace.
Sure.
This is why their connection is so strong. This is what we see represented at Calamai. This is what we are seeing represented now. Like it was always there.
Mm-hmm. It has been since he has been introduced onto the page. The chemistry has been sparked. So you brought up his wings.
Why do I care? And his wings come out. Is he angry at her that she doesn't realize the bond yet? Or is he just feeling frustrated in general? Like when he gets aggravated, he is somewhat like Tamlin. Like we get talons, we get wings. He's aggravated and he's frustrated. And could part of it be that he doesn't even know why he's frustrated, but that she didn't realize it yet? Or in his opinion, she's not responding to it appropriately, and he doesn't maybe even know why he thinks she should respond to it that way.
So initially I thought whenever he gets mad, his wings come out. Very similar to Tamlin. I do not think so now, because the wings flared from his back. And he's like stepping forward. Why should I care? And then the wings vanished as quickly as they appeared. He has much more control over himself and this power. He does not want Amarantha to know about his wings. Later on in this chapter chunk, he says, because it's after she's been turned to Fae, and she says, "You love to fly and you love your wings. Why don't you say anything?" He says, "Everything I love gets taken from me." He holds that back. I think he is purposely showing her his wings as a sign of, if not
his
trust.
Wingspan.
I mean, it's not the biggest.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think he's showing her his wings as a sign of, if not trust, a sign of vulnerability. Because we learn later on that the wings are their soft spot. It's like the underbelly, right? But we also know that Tamlin and Tamlin's father cut the wings off of his mother and his sister. So that is a huge thing for him. So I don't think that the wings are him losing control, but I think that particular part of the chapters that you're talking about, what do I care? What do I care? I think we learn that when he comes down. I kind of think of chapter 42 as Rhys's confession. Like, this is where we get a lot of Rhys, and he is just doing this. Why am I doing this? Because you're a monster, true, but I'm a pragmatist. He's just trying to get out. He's still thinking of his people. He can't do anything, and he's just trying to win the game. So that's what I think this whole chapter is about. I think this is SJM's way to de-villainize the bad guy that she has already introduced.
I was just looking at page 383, and he says, "It's the only claim I have to innocence. The only thing that will make Tamlin basically like not fight him."
Right, that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Right, when she's talking about it and he's like, "Why do you think I did not touch you anywhere besides the places that he could see?" This is why it had to be Nuala and Caradwyn. Otherwise, Tamlin could have argued that Rhys took liberties. We know he didn't.
So this one area of showing her his wings is, like you said, like a confession. He's trying to be like, I'm doing my best, girl. I don't know what else to
Well,
do. I'm
but
doing my
also,
best.
under the mountain, she is the only one who we see Rhys show his wings to. He does not have his wings out in the big parties.
Right.
He is only, it is a very understated vulnerability that that he shows her. Ugh. I really love chapter 42. I think that is probably my favorite chapter. While we are in chapter 42, why don't we talk about Tamlin telling her he loves her on page 379? Tamlin's green eyes flickered as they continued to stare into mine. He softly said, "I love you," without another glance at Rhysand. There is no reason for him to say this if the love is not true. But my question is, do we believe this love, or do we possibly think that Tamlin's definition of love is different than the fairy tale happily ever after romance hero love?
Are you talking about where we get into it again that maybe he's not really in love with her and it's all fake? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think I'm saying that. I think I don't think I have an answer. But I'm just putting it out there that maybe he doesn't understand what love is. Because when you think about it, he, for the last 49 years, has been trapped by Amarantha's curse. He is currently under the mountain, trapped by her, so that she can break him and dominate him. Like, if that is love, that is not love. And I think he has affection for her, but does he have the same affection that we learn Rhysand and Feyre grow into? It becomes the thing where she was mine first, she's mine, I'm not letting her go. He didn't have to say I love you, so I do think he has affection for her and loves her. But I don't know that it is romanticy / romance novel love that we come to expect from these books. And I think that is why we know he is not the hero.
If we compare that to a quote that's earlier, and Rhysand says, "I'm glad to see you're being reasonable. Now be a clever High Lord and buckle your belt and fix your clothes before you go out there." It's so condescending, but we also know that Rhysand has the paint on her so that no one can touch her. And this is his way of being like, do you really love her though? Or are you just going through some weird stuff with yourself right now? But if you really loved her, you would have thought about her well-being. And like, it kind of has to do with like, Tamlin doesn't love her. It goes to what you were saying. Like, he just really likes having what is his. I think Rhysand is putting him in check right there. So I think what you said about like where we have to evaluate, does he really love her or is this just a belonging that's mine? I really wonder if he really loves her.
This is potentially their last night together. Tomorrow, she does the third trial, and she doesn't expect to live. Maybe Tamlin doesn't either, and he was going to say, for this last night, I'm going to give in to it. Last night on Earth with the person you love.
That definitely could be. I wish we had more introspection into what Tamlin's thoughts were, but I really do believe that if he was doing what was best for Feyre, it wouldn't be putting his hands all over her in the closet, knowing that that's just going to make it worse. But also, it's their last night together, so like, let's just do what we're going to do. I see both sides. I don't know what to choose.
I think you might have just nailed it. If he was doing what was best for Feyre, I think he has a selfish love. He's not doing what's best for Feyre. He's doing what's best for him. And his love for Lucien is different because even Rhys is like, I wonder how she'll punish you. Lucien still has another eye. He has already begged for Lucien's life. This was a line that didn't need to be said, and I think it is very purposely put here. And also, like, we see it later on, chapter 46, it's all, I love you, I love you, I love you. But that doesn't matter because by then the bad guy is dead. This is before everything goes down. And
so do you think it means that he actually loves her? Because I have some questions about when he eventually wants to marry her, and this is in another book, so we don't have to talk about it in depth, but like, is he possibly marrying her for all the powers that she has now in the next book?
No,
I mean,
he doesn't,
I don't know.
I don't think he knows about the powers. They don't figure it out until she's with the Night Court.
Okay.
But I think, so this is going to be a controversial opinion, and I'm going to put a trigger warning for toxic relationships and possible abuse. When you have two people in a relationship and one of them is abusive in any way, they are not saying I don't love you. They are saying I am with you because I love you and you're going to do things the way I want. You are lucky that I love you. That is the kind of love I see here. He's constantly raged. He's constantly angry. We see his claws out for the first half of the book. You are right. If he loved her, if he was thinking of Feyre, he would have sucked it up and made it one more night without getting her smudged. Now Rhys has to step in and be the one to put his hands all over her. Rhys is the one who is protecting her, and she even thinks he has been protecting me since before I came under the mountain.
Because he makes out with her when he looks over. He sees Amarantha potentially walking in through the curtain, and he's like, oh, I better have my hands all over her. So Amarantha doesn't realize that Tamlin has had his hands all over Feyre, because that would be the worst thing ever, because the one person that we know Amarantha wants is Tamlin above all else.
Right, 384. If he hadn't been kissing me, if he hadn't shown up and interrupted us, I would have gone out into that throne room covered in smudged paint, and everyone, especially Amarantha, would have known what I'd been up to. Rhys puts his neck on the line over and over and over. He's the one who puts the bet to win. He's the one who comes and helps her, but he has to do it a certain way. Otherwise, too many questions would arise. He can't just go down and help her the way Lucien does. He has to be the villain. You look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just reading the next sentence after that, where Feyre says basically like everybody would have known who it was that was touching me because Tamlin had all the paint all over his hands. So right. It does seem like it was very obvious that Tamlin was the one doing that, and Amarantha was right there. And Rhys goes ahead and, quote, bites the bullet and is willing to take whatever Amarantha has to throw at him to protect Feyre. And is that because they're mates, or is that because she's going to save the world? Still, no one knows.
Now, one of the things I liked on this page, so we're still on 384, is Rhys stands up and he says, if you had any stomach for cruelty, you'd go to Amarantha and tell her the truth about her horror. This line makes me think again. So in the first trial, he is the one who says, oh, she's putting the mud on her to become invisible. He sees her and he understands her. He seems to have an understanding of her with very little interactions. But here he's like, if you had the stomach for cruelty, the next trial, the next day, she thinks herself a monster. She thinks herself cruel because she is killing innocent fae. It's almost like he is saying, I see you. I know you do not have the stomach to be cruel. But Amarantha's trial is making her question that, or at least bringing the reader's mind to it.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that till you just said it. But like, literally he says, I've told you too much at the bottom of 384. I've told you too much. Perhaps I should have drugged you first. I think that gives credit to what you're saying about how truthful Rhys is being with Feyre, and how truthful as the reader we can interpret Rhys's thoughts. Like, I think it just gives credibility to him that we can take what he's saying as true. Whereas like Tamlin's actions up to this point are self-serving. Rhys is saying, I see you. You are the one person that's trying to do right by everyone.
Well, and I think this is one of those actions speak louder than words, but we've seen Tamlin's actions. We've seen Rhys's actions. We don't get a lot of words from Tamlin, but this, like, again, this is Rhys's confession. He is also near his breaking point. This is the last night that he will be under the mountain, or this is the last moment of hope that he has, because tomorrow is the third trial. And we see him coming down to her, and she's like, what do you even want down here? And he's like, I just want some peace and quiet. Imagine being Amarantha's plaything. Just give me 5 minutes. You're the only person in this place who isn't going to call me names. You're the only person here who I can go to because no one's going to believe you. And we get 5 pages of book 2 Rhysand in this chapter. This is the Rhysand that we come to love in book 2. I mean, even at the end, he's smiling at her, you know? I love this chapter.
I think Rhysand is the only person that's doing right by Feyre.
And then also on this part, we learn why Rhysand has not been able to break Amarantha. Like, so this is something you were talking about in the last episode, why he hasn't been able to shatter her mind, because she's controlling their powers. We learn why he was the one that was targeted over all of the other High Lords, because his father killed Amarantha's friend, aka Tamlin's father. We learn so much, and he is also breaking here. You know, he sends that music down because she was breaking. He is right behind her. Ugh, I just love it. What else do you want to talk about?
How about on page 388, where she talks about how she has to kill these 2 innocent fae? Mm-hmm. And I think there's specifically a quote where she's like, I'm never going to forget about this.
Mm-hmm.
But in the future book, do we ever hear her talk about this again? And
yes,
we do.
Yeah, that's the whole problem with the beginning of book 2.
Is this the nightmares?
Yeah, she's having nightmares of blood, and that's why she doesn't want red roses at her wedding, is because it reminds her of the blood of the fae that she killed. And Ianthe is like, yeah, we won't get red roses, but we're using red roses. We're going to do it because they look really good and they're wedding flowers. Tamlin gets really annoyed with her. He's like, oh my God, are the nightmares not over yet? Jeez. She keeps having these nightmares. And I think even when she's in the night court, away from the spring court, she's still having nightmares. And Rhys is like, it's okay to have nightmares. I still have them. I know, he's perfect. But
I know.
Yes. It's so interesting because last episode you talked about how the first trial was reminiscent of her hunting. The second trial, so her strength. The second trial is reminiscent of her weakness, which was her illiteracy. The third trial is recreating Tamlin's curse. She has to kill a fae and prove her love of Tamlin.
And she already feels so bad about it. We've seen throughout this whole book how bad she feels about it, about killing Andress.
With these 2 first fae that she has to kill, the first one, he's fighting it. He doesn't want to die. He's begging her. He's literally begging for his life. And then on 391, his eyes full of shock and hate remained on me as he sagged. So we have hatred here. The second fae that she kills is praying to the mother and is accepting it. It's almost like these stages of grief that she has to go through. And then it is acceptance of what she has to do for Tamlin. Man, that's good.
Wow. No, it is totally like, I did recognize that the first fae that she has to kill is so scared and he's terrified and she has to do it anyway.
And he's angry.
And she moves on to the second person that, in her opinion, when they're making eye contact, this fae is looking at her and saying, just do it, just get it over with. Like, this is
she's accepted
what I'm
her
supposed to
point.
do.
Yeah.
Then we get to the third one. And the problem, like you said, it's like a recreation of Andress, which we already know she feels so terrible about. But then, like, she gets into this, like, mental place where she does end up realizing that Tamlin's heart is stone. And she does it, thinking that everything's going to be okay. But she pulls the knife out, and there's a chip out of the ashwood blade, and it's stuck in Tamlin. And so you get to this point where the author has like led you down this road of, okay, we're resolving problems. Oh my God. Nope, we didn't resolve anything. Here's the biggest problem ever. And bam, she did what she had to do. But then now Tamlin is suffering. And when she stabbed him in the heart, she thought that he wasn't supposed to suffer.
Right. I think she was surprised when he does. But one thing before, so we're kind of finishing up 43 with this. But one thing I wanted to point out on 389, way back when, chapters 1, or I guess episodes 1 and 2, we talk about these forgotten gods. This is the first time they've been referenced in a long time. On page 389. I wish I knew the name of one of our forgotten gods so that I might beg them to intercede.
Yeah, you did say that. I think what you said was, for all of these gods being forgotten, she sure does pray to them a lot.
And then we go to 44. So we're on 398. Yeah, the tip had been nicked, turned inward on itself. I think Feyre anticipated him being okay, but what we see is that...
Well, because she says... Amarantha is playing a dangerous game. I'm supposed to stab Tamlin and that Tamlin won't die. But then, like, Feyre thought in her head, this is going to play out. This might end up bad. And it does. And the little tip of Ashwood stays in Tamlin.
So I don't know if it stays in. The tip had been nicked, turned inward on itself. So I always take it to mean, like, it goes in and bends out.
Right. I don't know. That's not how I interpreted it. I interpreted it as like worst case scenario, because if the author says that the main character says she's playing a dangerous game, in my opinion, the author is going to deliver something that says, yeah, she did play the dangerous game and she effed up. And so I just took it as the tip stayed in Tamlin.
Sure. I mean,
it doesn't matter. The outcome is the outcome.
Well, but I think I think you are correct in that assumption. I mean, the way that she says the tip had been nicked, if something is nicked, it's cut. So it could be left in there. But this is now where we learned that Amarantha had never planned on freeing Feyre, had never planned on freeing Tamlin, because she says, I never said when I was going to free them. Unlike the riddle, which you still haven't figured out. And
it's the fairy deal. That's what we've always said. Like, you have to be careful with your grammar. It's not just the meaning, it's the grammar, because grammar gets you out of everything.
We see where on 400 where Rhys picks up the knife and he tries to fight her, and this is where Amarantha turns on him. You know, essentially, you're a traitor. You've been planning this the whole time. His eyes met mine. The bond between us went taut. I mean, I agree when you were talking about the bond earlier. I think there's so much here, and it's so obvious that they, even if they're not mates yet, there is no surprise that they're mates. She solves the riddle, and that one Amarantha can't get around.
You and I solved chapters ago.
Yeah,
Feyre,
no big deal.
up.
You know what? We're smarter than a 19-year-old. One thing I wanted to talk about, so Amarantha's death, I always felt like it was a bit lackluster.
Lackluster. I will support that.
That chapter is literally 2 pages and 2 2/3 page.
2.5 pages? Yeah.
Yeah. But we are introduced to Baron. Someone appeared beside Lucian, a tall, handsome, brown-haired man with a face similar to his own. Lucian didn't look at his father. I want to pay attention to Helion, because if Lucian looks similar to Baron, then maybe he is Baron's son. Is this before she decided to kind of spiral out and have Helion be Lucian's father? I don't know. Something to think about.
Well, I also thought it was interesting that I have so many highlights on this page.
Mm-hmm.
How interesting is it that the beef that Feyre ends up having with Autumn Court, that Autumn Court are one of the first courts that stood up and gave her a
Not
colonel.
one of, the first court.
Doesn't Tamlin do it first?
Tamlin does it last.
I feel like he did it on the page before, because I looked at this and I thought Tamlin did it first and Autumn Court did it second. Did I misread it?
Yeah, you did. 406. Tamlin tenderly brushed aside my matted hair. His hand glowed bright as the rising sun, and in the center of his palm that strange, shining bud formed. That's the second to the last line of the chapter.
Yeah. So, well, Autumn Court was right there. And like, it just seems so interesting to me that SJM writes Autumn Court as one of like the first people that step up. And yet Autumn Court is so anti-Lucian, and then Lucian joins Night Court-ish. But then like also Autumn Court is so against Feyre, but then Autumn Court are the first people that offer. Like the whole thing seems so contradictory that
Yes.
I wondered, is it a mistake?
I think this
Does
is first
it
book.
mean something and we haven't just found out because we're chapters or books away from like figuring out why was Autumn Court first?
I think this is first book writing.
Not
first of
knowing
all.
where we're going further.
Yeah. But what I also thought was interesting on this page is Rhys says, for what she gave, will bestow what our predecessors have granted to a few before. Who else has been given their powers?
Yep. I'm going to circle that now because we've addressed it.
This makes
what I want to know. Who has experienced this human death in Fae rebirth experience?
it's the fact that they have willingly, Tamlin didn't even ask. No one asked. This is just like the honor amongst the High Lords that they are all giving a piece of their power. And what's always rubbed me strangely when I got to books 2 and 3 is all of the High Lords realize part of their power is gone.
It definitely clicked with me when I was reading future books about how there were questions about how Feyre had all these powers, and you know why she has all these powers, because she was dead as a human. And they all know where the power came from and where their power went. So, like, why was that confusion?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, maybe rereading it again under this lens of the podcast with such more scrutiny, we will be able to get to the bottom of it. But I think this is one of those things we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, I agree. So when she dies and comes back, I have written on chapter 46, so we're on page 407, big senses. For someone who has been told, don't trust your senses, now everything is like Technicolor. We've gone from Wizard of Oz, Kansas to Oz. Everything smells different, looks different. She is physically different. She is taller than she was.
Her fingers are longer than they were because she starts to adjust her hair. And she's like, I feel my fingers being weird in my hair.
I mean, it's an interesting last chapter because I feel like a lot of times the final chapters of these romantasy books are cliffhangers. And this one doesn't end so much on a cliffhanger as an emotional cliffhanger. Her trauma has not been addressed. You have to read book 2 to see how she deals with it. Again, you've already pointed out on 412, I was pulled from sleep by something tugging at my middle, a thread deep inside. And then later on the same page, she says, I know who summoned me long before I saw him. And it's obviously Rhys saying goodbye.
Is this the infamous stumble that we're getting to?
We're getting there. But before we do that, he says, I just want to say goodbye. And she's like, it's not for forever. Don't forget, you get me a week every month. And then she says, those words thankfully came out frosty. I think it's very interesting that she says these words thankfully came out frosty as if it is a lie.
Right. Like,
thank God I was able to pull it off.
how would it, I was able to pull it off that I didn't really want to go there. But I kind of do.
I kind of do. Thank God it's only
too.
for one week a month.
Oh, no.
Oh, man, I have to go with this really handsome man who has wings. And then I also thought it was interesting, like, we see Rhys starting to address his legacy and also this idea of he wanted to show that he was fighting against the bad guys. This is the guy who fought for / with the humans. Under the mountain, he's the only High Lord that fights against Amarantha with Tamlin. And when she says why, he's like, because I wanted to be on the right side of history. When people look back, I want them to know I was there and I tried. I love it.
Does that mean we should expect when we're reading Crescent City, somebody should be him?
What do you mean?
He says he wants to be on the right side of history. So when we are reading Crescent City and learning about their history, should we expect that one of the people that we read about might be him? And maybe it's not the same name because maybe it's a different language.
Maybe.
I didn't think about that till you just said it. Sorry. It's off the cuff.
You know what? Let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah, that's all.
And then 4:15, I've already talked about it in a previous episode. His eyes locked on mine, wild, and his nostrils flared, and he stumbled back a step, actually stumbled, and then he's gone.
The infamous stumble.
To me, this is the moment he feels the bond, or for him, that it snaps in place. And I think this is him. He's being kind to her. He is letting her go back to, Prince Charming. But, like, you could have ended it there. But she didn't. Yeah.
I can say I absolutely see it. I absolutely see your point. I've said 100 times, I think he knows. And I do. And I also think this is when he realizes the mating bond. I do not know how to reconcile those two facts that are not congruent. And I don't know how to say or decide which one is true. I think pay attention. I think at some point he tells her after she hears it from the Suriel in book 2.
I think you're right.
That he knows and he tells her when it was. But like, dude, bro, I see it both ways. I see him stumbling and this that's not Rhys. That is not uniform Rhys. He picks lint off of his suit. He has his hand in his pockets. His shoulders are always just relaxed. He does not get stressed out. He
does not stumble. No, Rhys-Ann does not stumble. He walks with feline grace.
Like a cat, like Bilbo.
Bilbo Catkins.
If I have to reconcile everything I've set up to now, it is that it was all meant as foreshadowing and it wasn't factual, right? And this is where he realizes it.
I mean, the thing is, with the bond, it's not like you automatically know. So he could have been acting as the bond pulled at him without realizing what it was. Because I feel the same way. With everything we've seen, the bond is there. But I think this is the moment when he realizes what it is.
Right, because so many times we've talked about Feyre at Calamai being pulled by the drums. There's another just in this chapter chunk about her being pulled towards something. But maybe this is the first time he realizes it. And she still doesn't realize it. But it's already been in place forever. Even when she was a human. Even before she was Fae. I don't know.
It's really interesting. And I think the bond itself is so different from what we will see later. And that's one of the reasons I want to his perspective. Because then
this is so unlike you. I almost feel like you're asking for a book from Rhys-Ann's perspective and how much you hate those kind of books.
I do. But this one, it would just shed so much light on the story.
Yeah. I agree. I think it would.
And my last point is just to say that the last line of the book is, "Let's go home," I said, and took his hand, which is what he says to her after the Naga attack. And she thinks the Spring Court is her home. At this point, her home has changed.
It's obvious in the whole last 2 pages, 416 and 415, where you see that she is eager to get home. And that is Spring Court for her right now.
Get away from under this mountain. Oh my God.
I mean, it's the heart of Tamlin. Who wouldn't want to get away from it? Oh, wait, did I say that? Oops. I want to compare and contrast Feyre's human death and rebirth experience to Nesta's and Elaine's when they are in the cauldron. So I have tabs in my book in a different place, different color tabs to compare and contrast that when we get there.
Well, I think that finishes the episode. Next week, we're going to do a recap / final thoughts for A Court of Thorns and Roses. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe below or wherever you get your podcasts. We can also be found on Instagram at SJMAASTERCLASS and by email at SJMAASTERCLASS@gmail.com. And we want to hear from you. What did you think of this episode? And what did you think of ACOTAR? If this is your first time reading it, if this is your 18th time reading it, what are your thoughts? What do you think about our main players, Feyre, Tamlin, Lucien, Rhys? Like, how do they change? Let us know in the comments or below. Rev, how would you like to meet in maybe 15 minutes and grab a margarita?
I could think of nothing that I would like more than a marg right now. Can I see you in, what did you say, 15? Sure, I can get there in 15.
Love it. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.